The USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center in Flushing Meadows, New York, was buzzing with anticipation. The world's best players were preparing for the final Grand Slam of the season, the US Open, the biggest stage in tennis. Practice courts were packed. Reporters scrambled for interviews. The energy was electric. But in a quiet corner of the players' lounge, something entirely unexpected was about to unfold. Alex Eala had just finished a grueling practice session on the hallowed courts of Arthur Ashe Stadium. The 21-year-old from Quezon City, fresh off a historic season that had seen her climb to a career-high world number 20 ranking, was focused entirely on the tournament ahead. She was projected to enter the US Open as a seeded player, a first for any Filipino in the history of the tournament. She had secured a wild card into the mixed doubles draw alongside world number 4 Felix Auger-Aliassime. She was about to compete in the prestigious Stars of the Open exhibition under the lights of Arthur Ashe Stadium. But as she walked off the court, her coach, Joan Bosch, approached her with a serious expression. He handed her a note. "Someone wants to see you," he said quietly. "Someone who doesn't want to be seen." Eala's eyes scanned the note. Her jaw dropped. The name on the paper was one of the most legendary in tennis history, a man who had defined an era of the sport with his genius, his fire, and his unforgettable outbursts. John McEnroe, the 7-time Grand Slam singles champion, the man who had revolutionized the game with his artistry, his touch, and his unapologetic intensity, the man who had once been the biggest star in tennis, and who, according to the note, wanted to meet Eala in secret. The tennis world was about to be stunned. Welcome to the story of a champion's secret meeting, a legend's mentorship, and a young woman who was about to receive advice that would change her career forever. And McEnroe would seek out Alex Eala for a secret meeting. You have to understand the connection between them, a connection that had been building for months, hidden in plain sight. It all began in March 2025 at the Miami Open. Eala, then just 19 years old, had taken the tennis world by storm. She had defeated 3 Grand Slam champions in a single tournament. Her run to the semifinals had captivated audiences around the world. And one of those watching was a 7-time Grand Slam champion who had been impressed by what he saw. Mats Wilander, the Swedish legend, who had won 7 major titles and knew a thing or two about great tennis, had been so impressed by Eala's performance that he made a comparison that sent shockwaves through the tennis world. "The feel, the understanding, I love it," Wilander said. "It's basically what John McEnroe did to us in the 1980s. The comparison was stunning. Wilander wasn't just saying Eala was good. He was saying she possessed the same rare qualities that had made McEnroe one of the greatest players in history: the touch, the artistry, the ability to read the game at a level that others couldn't even comprehend." Wilander elaborated on his comparison, noting that Eala had hands given by God. He saw in the young Filipina the same mystical qualities that had defined McEnroe's game in the 1980s. The tennis world took notice. The comparison to McEnroe was not something that was thrown around lightly. McEnroe had been a once-in-a-generation talent, a player who could do things with a tennis racket that no one else could even imagine. To be compared to him was to be placed in a category reserved for the sport's true greats. And McEnroe himself had been watching. The 7-time Grand Slam champion, who had spent years as a commentator for the BBC and TNT Sports, had followed Eala's rise with keen interest. He had seen her historic run at Wimbledon, where she stunned defending champion Iga Swiatek on center court. He had watched her capture her first WTA Tour title in Washington. He had witnessed her climb to a career-high world number 20 ranking, and he had decided that he needed to meet her. The location was carefully chosen. Not a public court, not a media center. A quiet, private room at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center, a place where no one would think to look. Eala arrived first, her heart pounding. She had grown up watching McEnroe on television. She had studied his matches, his techniques, his mentality. She knew about his famous outbursts, his legendary battles with Bjorn Borg, his 3 Wimbledon titles, and 4 US Open crowns. She knew that he had revolutionized the sport with his artistry and his fire. And now, she was about to meet him. The door opened, and there he was. John McEnroe, at 67 years old, still possessed the same intensity that had defined his career. His eyes were sharp. His presence was commanding. But when he looked at Eala, his expression softened. I've been watching you, he said. And I have to say, Mats was right. Eala's eyes widened. She knew exactly what he was referring to. You have something special, McEnroe continued. Something that can't be taught. The feel, the understanding, the way you read the game. I saw it in Miami. I saw it at Wimbledon. And I see it now. He paused, studying her carefully. But you're not using it. The words hit like a thunderbolt. Eala had expected praise, maybe some advice. She hadn't expected to be challenged. McEnroe leaned forward, his voice becoming more intense. You have the talent to be one of the best in the world. But talent alone isn't enough. You need to believe in yourself. You need to trust your instincts. You need to play with the kind of fire that makes people remember your name long after you've left the court. Eala listened intently. This was exactly the kind of advice she needed, not from a coach, but from a legend who had been where she was trying to go. The meeting lasted nearly an hour, and during that time, McEnroe shared insights that would transform Eala's approach to the game. You're too cautious, he told her. You have the weapons. You have the touch. But you're playing not to lose, instead of playing to win. That's not how champions are made. He pointed to his own career as an example. People remember me for the outbursts, the arguments, the you cannot be serious moments. But what they don't realize is that I was fighting for something. I was fighting to be the best. I was fighting to prove that I belonged. And I never, ever backed down. Eala nodded. She understood exactly what he was saying. She had faced doubters her entire career. People who didn't believe that a player from the Philippines, a country with no tennis tradition, could compete with the best in the world. She had proven them wrong. But she had also, at times, played it safe. You're the biggest draw in women's tennis right now, McEnroe continued. Do you realize that? You're packing stadiums. You're selling out tournaments. You're bringing millions of new fans to the sport. That's not just talent. That's something else entirely. Eala had heard the numbers. She knew that ticket prices for her matches had surged by nearly 70% overnight at the Cincinnati Open. She knew that every match she played in Toronto had sold out in advance. She knew that at least 80% of ticket requests at the Washington Open had been about her. But hearing it from McEnroe was different. He wasn't just telling her she was popular. He was telling her she was important. You have a responsibility, he said. Not just to yourself. Not just to your country. But to the sport itself. You're showing millions of people that tennis is for everyone. That champions can come from anywhere. That's a powerful thing. He paused, his voice becoming more serious. And that's why the WTA needs to wake up. McEnroe's critique of the WTA was blunt and unflinching. They don't understand what they have, he said. You're the biggest thing to happen to women's tennis in a decade. And they're treating you like just another player. It's disgraceful. He pointed to the scheduling decisions that had plagued Eala's career. At the Australian Open, her first-round match had been placed on Court 6, one of the venue's smaller show courts. Hours before the match, long lines of fans, many draped in Philippine flags, had wrapped around walkways and spilled into adjacent areas. Hundreds never made it inside. That should never have happened, McEnroe said. When you have a player who can fill stadiums, you put her on center court. You don't hide her on Court 6. You treat her like the star she is. He pointed to the promotional materials that had overlooked Eala's growing importance. He pointed to the marketing efforts that had failed to capitalize on her popularity. He pointed to an organization that had been slow to adapt to the Eala phenomenon. I've seen this before, he said. The establishment doesn't like change. They don't like being told that the old ways aren't working. But the world is changing. Tennis is changing. And if the WTA doesn't change with it, they're going to be left behind. Eala listened carefully. She had experienced the WTA's shortcomings firsthand. She had felt the frustration of being overlooked, of having to fight for recognition, of being treated like a rising star instead of a superstar. But hearing McEnroe speak about it, with the passion and intensity that had defined his career, made her feel validated. She wasn't imagining things. The system was broken, and it needed to be fixed. You can't wait for them to figure it out, McEnroe said. You have to force them to see what's in front of them. You have to keep winning. Keep packing stadiums. Keep proving that you're not just a player, you're a movement. As the meeting drew to a close, McEnroe offered Eala one final piece of advice. You're going to face a lot of pressure, he said. From the media, from the fans, from the WTA, from people who don't want to see you succeed. And it's going to be hard. But you have to remember one thing. He leaned forward, his eyes locking with hers. You belong here. You've earned your place. And no one, not the WTA, not your opponents, not the doubters, can take that away from you. Eala felt a surge of emotion. She had worked her entire life to get to this point. She had sacrificed everything, her childhood, her social life, her comfort, to pursue her dream. And now, one of the greatest champions in tennis history was telling her that she belonged. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. McEnroe smiled. "Now go out there and show them what you're made of." The secret meeting was over, but its impact would be felt for years to come. August 2026. New York City. Flushing Meadows. The U.S. Open. The stands are filled with Filipino flags, the same sea of red, white, blue, and yellow that followed Eala from Washington to Toronto to Cincinnati and now to New York. The fans are loud, proud, and unwavering. They have traveled from across the United States, from Canada, from the Philippines itself, to witness history. Eala walks onto the court with the confidence of a champion. She has been here before. She knows what it takes to win, and she is ready to make a statement. Her opponent is a dangerous player, but Eala is not intimidated. She has faced tougher opponents, overcome greater odds, and emerged victorious. She has beaten Iga Swiatek at Wimbledon. She has beaten Jessica Pegula in the Washington final. She has beaten Zheng Qinwen, Leylah Fernandez, Alina Svitolina, and Naomi Osaka. From the very first point, Eala takes control. Her serve is dialed in, her ground strokes are precise, and her movement is effortless. The crowd roars with every point, their chants echoing through the stadium. The Filipina sensation is playing like a woman possessed. The match is a battle. As predicted, her opponent fights back, pushing Eala to her limits. But this time, Eala does not waver. She does not let the pressure rattle her. She does not let the ghosts of past losses creep back into her mind. She does what champions do. She regroups. She refocuses. And she unleashes a barrage of tennis that her opponent simply cannot handle. The victory is sealed. Eala advances, her U.S. Open campaign off to a winning start. The crowd erupts. The flags wave. And the tennis world takes notice. After the match, Eala is asked about the secret meeting with McEnroe. She smiles, her eyes filled with emotion. "It was an incredible experience," she says. "To have someone like John McEnroe believe in you, to have him speak about you like this, it means the world." She pauses, her voice trembling slightly. "He told me that I belong here, that I've earned my place, and that no one can take that away from me. I take so much pride in representing my country," she continues. "It makes what I do bigger than myself, and it adds meaning to what I do." Maraming salamat sa mga kababayan natin sa lahing ginawa niyo mula sa Washington hanggang Toronto, at sa lahing gagawin niyo pa parati, kayong sumasuporta at nagdadasal. Parati kayong nagpupuyat kaya tuloy-tuloy lang akong magdatrabaho para sa inyo. The crowd goes absolutely mad. Eala's secret meeting with John McEnroe was a milestone in her journey. It was a recognition of her status as a global icon, a symbol of hope and inspiration for millions of people around the world. The connection between Eala and McEnroe was not just about tennis. It was about the passing of the torch from one generation to the next. It was about a legend recognizing greatness in a young player who had the potential to change the sport forever. McEnroe's comparison to Eala, through Wilander's words, had been prophetic. The feel, the understanding, I love it. It's basically what John McEnroe did to us in the 1980s. Now, the comparison had come full circle. McEnroe had not only recognized Eala's talent, he had taken her under his wing, shared his wisdom, and given her the confidence to believe that she could achieve anything. Eala's legacy was no longer confined to the tennis court. She had become a cultural icon, a symbol of hope and inspiration for millions of people around the world. And her secret meeting with McEnroe was just the latest chapter in a story that was far from over. From the cracked courts of Quezon City, where tennis was a luxury, to the center courts of New York, where she had become the biggest draw in women's tennis, Alex Eala had proven that champions don't just win matches, they change the sport forever. And John McEnroe, the seven-time Grand Slam champion who had recognized her greatness, knew it all along. "You have something special," McEnroe had told her. And he was right. From the cracked courts of Quezon City to the center courts of New York, where she had become the biggest draw in women's tennis, Alex Eala had proven that champions don't just win matches. They change the sport forever. And John McEnroe, the 7-time Grand Slam champion who had recognized her greatness, knew it all along. "You have something special," McEnroe had told her. And he was right. The tennis world was stunned, and Alex Eala was just getting started.